Here's my review of Diary of a Wimpy Kid Christmas Cabin Fever. Full disclosure, I thought the first one it was fine. Like the first one on Disney Plus, and I didn't even watch Rodrick Rules. And so I went into this with very low expectations, especially considered I would say Cabin Fever is my favorite Wimpy Kid book, and I would say that this is definitely the best one. I mean, like I said, I haven't seen the second one, don't plan to really. But this is definitely better than the first one. And I would even say that it is solid. And I think what works here is just the idea of you have Greg, you have the Heffleys just stuck inside during the blizzard. I mean, it worked great in the books, and just seeing their interactions and just bickering. I think it just kind of fits. And I think the animation also does give you a Christmas vibe. Like, even though the animation is kind of poor, I think it got enough colors and uniqueness to allow it to at least be pretty. And of course, just like in the books, you got the Elf on the Shelf character. Of course, like Susan puts it out saying, hey, he's watching you. And so obviously Greg has to be very careful in this one to not be naughty, because specifically, I think another thing that works is he also has more of a clearer goal, and it feels more like he wants it more because he wants this new gaming system, and he eventually does find it. He finds it in the closet, so he knows he's going to get it, but he knows that, like, he still has to be good to get it. And so you've kind of seen these bickerings, not necessarily bickering, but just like these little interactions as the snow just gets higher and higher and higher. And it does kind of feel like there's actually real stakes. I mean, of course, this is like a kid's movie. You know nothing really bad is going to happen. But it still at least provides enough of, enough of a motivation and enough of a plot for this movie to exist. And I would say that it was pretty solid. And another kind of main subplot is, like when Rowley and Greg are outside, like doing like a snowball fight. Like at a certain point, like there's snow, like the snowball, or they're building a snowman, and the snowman just kind of collapses and it goes into like the people who shovel snow in those big trucks, and kind of destroys her truck. So then it kind of allows for there to be more stakes, because Greg is kind of sometimes worried about whether he's going to get arrested, because obviously damaging property. And so it allows for there to be more stakes and for you to actually be invested in this. And I think that's what this does, at least way more than the first one. Like, I didn't really care about Greg in the first one, and nothing really felt like it mattered, and it was just going by so quick. And this one's slightly, I think this is the longest one. Like, it's only like, I think it's about like an hour, maybe hour and 7 minutes. Real short film. But you still have, I think, enough here to justify its existence. And a lot of it still feels fast. Like, Rowley and Greg, maybe they're stressed out about going to be going to jail because of damaging this car. And then, of course, it feeds even more of how Greg is so scared about what's going to happen. Like, is he going to be on the naughty list? And so there's just a lot of really nice, cute, kind of Christmas vibes. And I think that's what really carrying this is. You really do feel like this feels like Christmas. Even though the animation is poor, I think it still kind of looks pretty. Like, it still looks distinct. The lighting is still cool. And it's interesting because, as this blizzard keeps getting higher and higher, you feel more of, at a certain point, they're kind of running out of food, and you're kind of getting more nervous, just like in the books. And it's just I'd say there's just a lot to, I want to say, not necessarily a lot, but there's definitely enough to enjoy here. And a lot of it, like I said, is just built on the character interactions, or they're super bored and stuck inside, so just whether they're playing charades. And, I mean, Rodrick, he's fine as well. I definitely think he's better than he was in the first. And there's just enough here, just a little bit of, fun jokes, fun plot lines, and just enough to be like, yeah, that was pretty good. It was okay. And, of course, obviously not necessarily the main, like, just as important as the subplot, of course, them being scared about getting arrested. And also, just like in the book, they are having to deliver like these gifts, and in doing so, or no, it's actually completely wrong. What ended up happening is something of theirs got lost in the dumpster, and they have to actually get it out. And or there was the hat, and it was like a hat and gloves that then, like, if their parents would notice it, like that it was on top of the gaming system or something, so they would know that they stole it. And so they have to get it out, and in doing so, they clear the road. They're shoveling all of it. And then the driving lady, the snow shoveling lady, kind of thanks them, even because they think they did it intentionally. And, there's just enough, and you kind of know how, you kind of, like, care more about her. Surprisingly, for the limited screen time she has, kind of says, like, how it's tough just being, like, doing this just to care for family. It's just enough, like, cute little scenes like that. It's nothing, like, grand, but it's definitely enough. So, yeah, I would say that this movie, it has enough. I would say, at least compared to the first one, I care way more about the characters in this than I did in the first one. And I think also because this is Christmas, it really tests Greg in terms of, because Greg is notoriously kind of an awful person. And it definitely kind of tests him more. And it forces him to kind of be better and therefore more likable. Because although, yeah, he's doing this stuff in a way to benefit himself, like the only reason he shovels the stuff is just so he can get to the dumpster to get what's his, and like the hats and stuff. But in doing so, he's still kind of doing a good deed, because the lady kind of tells him how he saved like a lot of time and allowed for like then the kids in need to get it. So he unintentionally, though, he still kind of does a good deed. And there's just enough, and it kind of ends on just like a sweet note, on Christmas morning. And there's just enough, and it kind of gives you these good vibes, solid, like, just aesthetic. And overall, I think I had fun watching it. Like, it's nowhere near as good as like the 3 live action. Yes, there are only 3 live action. I don't know what you're talking about. Long Haul doesn't exist. But, and most of all, it's definitely better than the first one. And like I said, I didn't see Rodrick Rules, so I would still say that this is the best of the animated so far. And yeah, I would say that it was pretty solid. It was okay. And I do think that also the pacing was a lot better here. I think that in the first one, it just felt way too fast. And I think this is just a little slightly longer. But I thought that it kind of worked out. So yeah, I think that this was a solid movie.